Hello there, it's midnight and you are tuning in to Nightline with me, Nadia Azmi. Here are the top stories. Malaysia urges immediate implementation of UN resolution for Gaza peace. And Israel intensifies attacks on Lebanon, leaving dozens killed. Good morning. Malaysia has pressed for the immediate implementation of United Nations Security Council UNSC Resolution 2735, which outlines a three-phase plan to achieve peace in Gaza without any additional conditions. The call was made by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim during the 12th Asean United States-US Summit, which was also attended by US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Vientiane, Laos on Friday.
In his speech during the ASEAN-US Summit, Anwar stated that Malaysia, alongside the international community, is calling for an immediate ceasefire to prevent the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza and Lebanon. He stressed that the atrocities committed by the Zionist regime in Gaza, which have now spread to Lebanon, must cease without delay to avoid further escalating the already tense situation in the region. During a bilateral meeting between Anwar and Blinken on the sidelines of the 44th and 45th ASEAN Summit and related summits, the Prime Minister urged the US to leverage its influence to enforce the UNSC Resolution 2735.
Kita tekankan tidak harus ada pengecualian terhadap mana-mana pelanggaran hukum antara bangsa terhadap mana-mana negara. Seperti mana berlaku sekarang kerana bertindak sewenang-wenang termasuk kutukan Israel terhadap Setiausaha Agung Bangsa-Bangsa Bersatu dan menyebabkan keganasan dan pengeboman yang menyebabkan lebih 200 anggota United Nations juga turut terkorban selain dari 40,000 dari Gaza dan kini Lebanon.
The UNSC resolution outlines a three-plan phase proposed by the US, which calls for an immediate, permanent and effective ceasefire. This includes the release of hostages, exchange of prisoners involving Palestinian detainees and the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. Additionally, it calls for the swift and unhindered delivery of humanitarian aid and the reconstruction of the region. Meanwhile, at a press conference, Blinken stated that the US is willing to restrict military aid to Israel over the issues of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. He also reaffirmed Washington's commitment to defusing the situation and preventing the ongoing conflict among Israel, Hezbollah and Hamas from escalating further in the region.
And we all have a strong interest in trying to help create an environment in which people can go back to their homes and live there safely and securely, and kids can go back to school. So Israel has a clear and very legitimate interest in doing that. The people.
In the meantime, Israeli airstrikes on central Beirut had killed at least 22 people and wounded 117 others, the deadliest attack in Lebanon's capital in more than a year of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. The air raid reportedly targeted 2 residential buildings in separate neighborhoods, destroying one apartment building and wiped out the lower floors of the other. According to officials, among the dead was a family of 8, including 3 children who had evacuated from the south. The Thursday night strikes followed a year of tit-for-tat exchanges between Hezbollah and Israel that boiled over into all-out war in recent weeks, with Israel carrying out waves of heavy airstrikes across Lebanon and launching a ground invasion. The attack also came the same day Israeli forces fired on United Nations peacekeepers in southern Lebanon and wounded 2 of them, drawing widespread condemnation across the globe. Meanwhile, members of the Malaysian Battalion Malbat 85011 stationed in Lebanon have been instructed to cease all patrol operations and logistical movements. They have also been ordered to remain in bunkers within designated areas following military strikes by Israeli forces on the country.
Defence Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Khalid Nordin stated that the safety of the Malbat officers and personnel who are currently deployed on a peacekeeping mission under the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, is always a priority.
Dan dinasihatkan untuk berada dalam bunker. Satu-satu jangka masa dalam bunker dalam 12 jam, 13 jam. Jangan duduk dalam bunker. No activity, nothing. Tetapi UNIFIL belum buat keputusan untuk dipindahkan. You must still be there. Sebab kalau tidak ada cabaran-cabaran yang lain.
He added that despite the tense situation caused by Israeli provocations, the decision on whether to bring the Malbat members home will only be made collectively by UNIFIL. Muhammad Khalid also said that his ministry receives 3 to 4 daily updates on the condition of the peacekeepers from the Malaysian Armed Forces Joint Forces Command and is consistently monitoring the situation. On Thursday, UNIFIL said Israeli fire on their headquarters in South Lebanon left 2 personnel injured. The peacekeeping organization also accused Israel of repeatedly hitting UNIFIL positions along the border after it rejected Israeli demands last week to relocate.
Now, Malaysian ambassador to Lebanon, Azmi said he and embassy personnel have been ordered to return home following the escalating situation in the Middle East country.
Azmi stated that the second phase of the evacuation will include himself and 3 others. They will be returning to Malaysia on Sunday and Monday via commercial flights. He also said that only 1 Malaysian, a Mercy Malaysia representative, was left in the country, adding that the person will leave Lebanon on Saturday. Previously, it was reported that 22 Malaysians had been evacuated following Israeli deadly airstrikes that hit Beirut since last month.
More on the 44th and 45th ASEAN Summit and related summits. The 10-nation regional organization and China have agreed to avoid any acts of violence in the South China Sea and to resolve disputes through diplomatic channels. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said Chinese Premier Li Qiang had given his assurances on the matter during the 27th ASEAN-China Summit on Thursday.
Isu ini adalah isu yang menyinggung semua negara. Tapi cara penyelesaian yang kita usulkan yang dipersetujui oleh semua termasuk negara China ialah elak keganasan, gunakan jalur diplomatik, ada rundingan dan saya cadangkan kalau boleh guna jalur ASEAN.
Anwar told the Malaysian media on the final day of the ASEAN summit that Beijing had assured that any dispute between China with the Philippines in the South China Sea would be peacefully managed according to the spirit of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. Disputes in the South China Sea were among the key issues discussed by the 10 ASEAN countries and their dialogue partner China during the summit, with emphasis placed on the right to defend their respective national sovereignty. Regarding the conflict in Myanmar, he said that Malaysia emphasized efforts to increase engagement with stakeholders in Myanmar to resolve the country's crisis. Anwar added that Myanmar showed positive developments by expressing its readiness to engage directly and actively with Malaysia. Approximately 4,000 people have been killed and nearly 1 million residents displaced since Myanmar's civilian government was abruptly overthrown in a military coup in February 2021. Malaysia is currently hosting around 200,000 Myanmar refugees. Meanwhile, Laos officially handed over the ASEAN chairmanship to Malaysia on Friday, marking the conclusion of the 44th and 45th ASEAN summits and related summits. In his closing address, Laos Prime Minister Sonsay Siphandone expressed gratitude to the delegates for their cooperation and support throughout Laos's chairmanship, before formally passing the ASEAN baton to Anwar.
Taking the rostrum, Anwar highlighted that 2025 will mark the 10th anniversary of the ASEAN community's founding, a milestone for the region. The Prime Minister also unveiled the official logo as well as the theme for Malaysia's 2025 ASEAN chairmanship, Inclusivity and Sustainability, which he said reflects the country's ambition to ensure shared progress and long-lasting impact.
It reflects our aspirations for truly shared progress, ensuring that no one is left behind. It conveys our hope that the steps we take today will endure in the long run. It underscores our determination to keep the future firmly in sight as we move forward.
Anwar also reaffirmed Malaysia's commitment to upholding ASEAN core values and priorities, emphasizing that under its chairmanship, the bloc will remain steadfast in maintaining Southeast Asia as a peaceful, stable and prosperous region. Malaysia will also spearhead the introduction of the ASEAN Community Vision 2045, outlining the roadmap for the bloc's shared future for the next 2 decades.
The upcoming 2025 budget, how to effectively address the rising cost of living and support income growth for the rakyat. What proactive strategies to prioritize to foster sustainable economic growth and elevate Malaysia's global competitiveness. Money Matters with Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad's Chief Economist Dr. Muhammad Afzal Nizam Abdul Rashid this Saturday at 5 p.m. on TV3 and stream on Tonton.
Back home, there will be no establishment of a Royal Commission of Inquiry on the GISBH case pending the presentation of 3 cabinet ministers on the issue in the Dewan Rakyat next Tuesday. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Law and Institutional Reform, Datuk Sri Azalina Othman Said, stated that the cabinet had agreed to the presentations of the 3 ministers.
Azalina said that the need for an RCI would be determined following the parliamentary debate on the GISBH issue, which is crucial as MPs are the voice of the people. She also said that the debate would be open to all government and opposition lawmakers. The 3 ministers presenting the paper will be Home Minister Datuk Seri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs Datuk Muhammad Naim Mokhtar, and Women, Family and Community Development Minister Datuk Seri Nancy Shukri. GISBH has been in the spotlight for alleged criminal acts, including child abuse, sexual assault, exploitation, human trafficking and cult-like practices. Several states have also declared the group as deviant and un-Islamic.
In the meantime, Home Minister Datuk Seri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail has defended the police in their handling of the children rescued from welfare homes linked with Global Equine Services and Business Holdings GISBH. He said that police had followed the set procedures and there was due process in the investigation.
Bila polis samakan, polis berpandukan kepada 11 peruntukan undang-undang. 11 akta. Buat masa sekarang lah, penyiasatannya terus melebar. Tapi kami fokus pada eksploitasi wanita, eksploitasi kanak-kanak, ya, termasuklah potensi berlaku pelecehan seksual kanak-kanak mengikut akta seksual kanak-kanak 2017. Kami siasat di bawah akta kanak-kanak 2001. Kami siasat di bawah Aktipsum.
Saifuddin said this in response to reports that a group of lawyers is planning legal action against the government, claiming that the separation of children from their parents linked to GISBH is unlawful. He added that the police are conducting investigations into the matter with the utmost transparency and caution given the public interest involved. He also said that 70 of the children have been returned to their families, while the rest are still involved with investigations. Communications Minister Fahmi Fazil earlier said the total number of children rescued from the charity homes linked to GISBH now stood at 662.
The Works Ministry is monitoring 3,000 slopes identified as high risk along federal roads nationwide. Deputy Works Minister Datuk Sri Ahmad Maslan said this was the result of mapping conducted by the ministry involving over 27,000 slopes in the peninsula, Labuan, Putrajaya and Kuala Lumpur.
Di mana slope yang kita yakini, yang kita perhatikan pergerakan tanahnya menggunakan sistem monitoring yang tepat. Dan kita sentiasa akan mengadakan apa yang dipanggil EWS, Early Warning System, di tempat-tempat yang kita rasa akan berlaku tanah runtuh.
Ahmad was speaking to reporters after his site visit to Blue Valley near Simpang Pulai, Perak, which was identified as a high-risk area on Friday. He added that district engineers have been provided with comprehensive information about the listed high-risk slopes and are responsible for conducting regular stability monitoring and taking precautionary measures. He also said that the slope hazard mapping and assessment guidelines have also been launched as part of the ministry's comprehensive action plan to address the issue.
More than 20 coal miners shot dead in Pakistan. This and more from the foreign front when we return.
Panggilan kepada semua usahawan, Karnival Jom Heboh kini kembali ke Johor Bahru pada 1 hingga 3 November ini. Inilah masanya untuk anda kembangkan jenama, bisnes, produk mahupun perkhidmatan selain ikuti pelbagai aktiviti menarik. Untuk lebih lanjut, hubungi kami di maklumat tertera. Jom, jom, jom!
Rasuah membinasakan negara. Integriti tiada harga yang setara. Rasuah musuh kepercayaan dan keadilan. Bersama Tan Sri Azam Baki, Ketua Pesuruhjaya Suruhanjaya Pencegahan Rasuah Malaysia SPRM. Soal Rakyat Sabtu ini di TV3.
Exploring an exciting new financial potential. Your key insights into finance. Money Matters every Saturday 5 p.m. only on TV3 and stream now on Tonton.
Biasanya barang baru kita reka, desainnya agak rumit, dalam 3 hari, 4 hari baru boleh kita siapkan. Perempuan dia cepat berubah. So kita sebagai pengeluar atau pembuat ni kena cepat juga.
Waktu awal-awal dulu tu rasa nak give up semua tu. Tapi bila kita dapat semangat daripada pekerja-pekerja mahir, kita jadi semangat lagi, kita jadi nak tahu lagi benda tu, nak belajar lagi.
Izzah wakilkan untuk perempuan kat luar sana, buktikan yang perempuan memang boleh buat kerja macam lelaki juga.
On to the foreign front. United Nations inquiry on Friday said it found that Israel carried out a concerted policy of destroying Gaza's healthcare system in the Gaza war. The Commission stated the Zionist attacks on the healthcare facilities and its treatment of Palestinian detainees amounted to war crimes, as well as the crime against humanity of extermination. It added the attacks on the healthcare system have inflicted conditions of life, resulting in the destruction of generations of Palestinian children and potentially the Palestinian people as a group. Meanwhile, Zionist attacks continued in Gaza, with a number of people, including an infant, killed in Jabalia and Deir el-Bala. Gaza's health ministry said at least 61 Palestinians were killed and 231 wounded in the last 24 hours. Pakistan authorities on Friday said gunmen killed 21 miners and wounded another 7 in the Balochistan province, drawing condemnation from authorities as a search was launched for the attackers. According to officials, up to 40 armed men stormed the accommodations at a coal mine in Duki district at around 12:30 a.m. local time. They added the attackers first rounded up the miners before they opened fire. It was also reported that the attackers fired rockets and lobbed grenades at the coal mine and damaged mining machinery before fleeing. Police have confirmed that 4 of the victims were Afghans, while the rest of the men were from Balochistan. So far, no group claimed immediate responsibility for the attack, but suspicion is likely to fall on the outlawed Baloch Liberation Army, which often targets civilians and security forces. Over in the U.S., at least 16 people were killed after Hurricane Milton passed through Florida on Thursday as rescue workers begin their operations. Authorities said rescue workers are still making their way through debris and flooded areas throughout Florida. It also stated that more flooding is likely in the coming days, warning residents not to visit areas hit by the hurricane after it brought tornadoes, floods and storm surges to the state. Meanwhile, Milton's wind speeds have dropped to 129 kilometers per hour and is expected to downgrade to a post-tropical storm. A storm surge warning, however, still remains for the state's east coast. Faye Izzuddin smashed into last 4. Action from Arctic Open right after this breather.
Sebelum ni dia okey je, boleh buat kerja seperti biasa. Dan selepas kena macam ni, saya pun tak tahu nak kata apa. Sebelum ni okey, tiba-tiba je kerana kes obat je. Dia dah lupa makan ubat dia tu, ubat cair darah. Dah 3 hari ataupun 4 hari saya pun tak tahu. Lepas dia makan ubat tu mungkin banyak ke terlebih daripada jadual dia tu, jadi macam tu.
Biasanya barang baru kita reka, desainnya agak rumit, dalam 3 hari, 4 hari baru boleh kita siapkan. Perempuan dia cepat berubah. So kita sebagai pengeluar ataupun pembuat ni kena cepat juga.
Waktu awal-awal dulu tu rasa nak give up semua tu. Tapi bila kita dapat semangat daripada pekerja-pekerja mahir, kita jadi semangat lagi, kita jadi nak tahu lagi benda tu, nak belajar lagi.
Izzah wakilkan untuk perempuan kat luar sana, buktikan yang perempuan memang boleh buat kerja macam lelaki juga.
Rasuah membinasakan negara. Integriti tiada harga yang setara. Rasuah musuh kepercayaan dan keadilan. Bersama Tan Sri Azambaki, Ketua Pesuruhjaya Suruhanjaya Pencegahan Rasuah Malaysia SPRM. Soal Rakyat Sabtu ini di TV3.
We're back with sports badminton, the 2024 Arctic Open. National men's doubles pair Gozi Faye Nur Izzuddin Muhammad Rumsani showed maturity as they upset former world #1 pair Fajar Alfian and Rian Ardianto to reach the semi-finals on Friday.
The world number 8 duo secured a hard-fought 23-21, 19-21, 22-20 win over the Indonesian pair in 72 minutes, continuing their splendid run on the World Tour. Awaiting for Faye and Izzuddin in the next round will be China's top seed Liang Weikung Wang Chang. Earlier, national mixed doubles pair Goh Soon Huat and Shevan Jamie Lai proved their class after defeating compatriots Hu Pangron Cheng Su Yin 21-19, 21-15 to reach the last 4. The husband and wife pair, who are aiming to capture their 3rd world title of the year, will next face either China's world number 2 Zhang Zhenbang Wei Yaxin or Indonesia's Rinov Rivaldi Pitha Haningtyas Mentari.
On to football, the international friendlies. Harimau Malaya deserved full praise as they put up a good fight and eked out a 1-1 draw with Auckland FC on Friday. National head coach Pau Marti Vicente said that the national squad showed excellent fighting spirit to tie the Kiwis' main club, in which he described as a strong team.
I think it was a very strong club, new club for A-League, Australian League. But they invest a lot, they have very good players, and for us it was a very good test, especially because we're going to play against New Zealand and we expect a similar game. This very physical, very fast pace and very high intensity.
Earlier, Auckland FC went ahead through 29-year-old defender Francis de Vries' strike in the 25th minute. However, the lead did not last for long as Nuwa Lane levelled for Harimau Malaya in the 59th minute. The national squad is scheduled to play a Tier 1 friendly against New Zealand at the North Harbour Stadium on October 14th.
Moving on to tennis, the 2024 Shanghai Masters. Novak Djokovic survived a quarter-final scare against Jakub Mensik to stay alive in his quest for a 100th tour-level title on Friday.
The record 4-time champion rallied from a set down to send the Czech packing 6-7, 6-1, 6-4 in 2 hours and 19 minutes. After a sluggish start, Djokovic clicked into gear in a near-flawless second set, during which he won 92% of points behind his first serve. Waiting for him in the semi-finals is world number 7, Taylor Fritz. Earlier, Fritz brushed past Belgian David Goffin, winning 6-3, 6-4 in just an hour and 22 minutes. Despite the Belgians' efforts to stage a comeback from a rough start, the American regained control of the match to secure the victory and advance to the semi-finals.
Duo remanded for 7 days over Felcra pensioner's murder. The details when we come back.
Biasanya barang baru kita reka desainnya agak rumit, dalam 3 hari, 4 hari baru boleh kita siapkan. Perempuan dia cepat berubah. So kita sebagai pengeluar atau pembuat ni kena cepat juga.
Waktu awal-awal dulu tu rasa nak give up semua tu. Tapi bila kita dapat semangat daripada pekerja-pekerja mahir, kita jadi semangat lagi, kita jadi nak tahu lagi benda tu, nak belajar lagi.
Izzah wakilkan untuk perempuan kat luar sana, buktikan yang perempuan memang boleh buat kerja macam lelaki juga.
Rasuah membinasakan negara. Integriti tiada harga yang setara. Rasuah musuh kepercayaan dan keadilan. Bersama Tan Sri Azam Baki, Ketua Pesuruhjaya Suruhanjaya Pencegahan Rasuah Malaysia SPRM. Soal Rakyat Sabtu ini di TV3.
Sebelum ni dia okey je, boleh buat kerja seperti biasa. Dan selepas kena macam ni, saya pun tak tahu nak kata apa. Sebelum ni okey, tiba-tiba je kerana kes obat je. Dia dah lupa makan ubat dia tu, ubat cair darah. Dah 3 hari ataupun 4 hari saya pun tak tahu. Lepas dia makan ubat tu mungkin banyak ke terlebih daripada jadual dia tu, jadi macam tu.
Welcome back. In Kedah, a contractor and his nephew have been remanded for 7 days to assist investigations into the murder of Felcra pensioner Sabari Baharom last month. The remand order for the duo, aged 38 and 26, were issued by Magistrate Anis Suraya Ahmad at the Sungai Petani Court Complex on Friday.
The remand application was filed by police to facilitate further investigations under Section 302 of the Penal Code. Both suspects who were arrested on September 27th were previously remanded to facilitate investigations under Section 435 of the Penal Code for mischief by fire. This was following the discovery of Sabari's charred proton wajah in Kampung Pula, Belantik, about 60 kilometers from his home in Kupang Baling on September 20th. Earlier, reports stated that the 62-year-old victim had been missing since September 4th. However, it was later established that the father of 3 was abducted by the suspects on September 4th in an apparent robbery that went awry. Police then confirmed that Sabari was thrown into Sungai Pandang Terap with his hands bound and mouth taped, following the rest of the suspects. The search for Sabari ended on October 3rd after a 3-day operation along a 13-kilometer stretch of the river yielded no results.
Before we leave, let's take a look as globally popular Japanese manga Attack on Titan hits the stage in New York City, combining traditional musical theatre, state-of-the-art technology and 2.5-dimensional actors. With that, I'm Nadia Azmi. Thank you for watching and have a great weekend.